Hi everyone, and welcome to our next episode in our Survive and Thrive webinar series. Today I'm really delighted to have Claire Gamble with me, who's going to be talking all around PR and communications during a time of crisis. Hi Claire, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. You?
Really good, thank you. So Claire's got some really interesting advice for businesses and also some really interesting statistics from a recent research project. So I'll leave her to talk about that in a minute. But before we do, I'll just quickly introduce myself. So my name's Mike. I run a business called MP&Co. We're a marketing consultancy business helping typically B2B fast growth businesses create targeted marketing strategies, and then I connect them with an elite team of marketers to help them implement it. I'll just let Claire introduce herself and tell a bit about her background.
Thanks, Mike. So I run a PR agency called Unhook Communications. We work with national and international businesses to help them build trust and manage their reputation, increase brand awareness and engage with target audiences through PR and content marketing. And I'm also the founder of PR Unlocked, which is an online training course which helps small businesses and marketers learn how to do their own PR.
Awesome.
Great.
I'll let you tell us all about what you're going to be talking about then.
Fab, thanks Mike. Well, today I'm going to talk about, as Mike said, we've carried out some research recently. So it was at the end of March, so it's really new. We're just starting to go out with the research now. So we've asked 2,000 people as part of this research what their thoughts and experiences are around the communications and PR that they're receiving from businesses relating to coronavirus. Because I don't know about you, Mike, but I feel like all the emails that I've been getting and so much stuff that I've been seeing on social media and media, everything is quite understandably about coronavirus. But we wanted to understand what the impact of this was and how businesses can get it right, because there are some businesses unfortunately getting it wrong.
Absolutely. I think the recent webinar that we did together on the marketing side of things, we saw some statistics on how that the curve of engagement on any sort of content relating to COVID is taking a drop now. I think people are getting a little bit exhausted, and I think your stats had a lot more rationale to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to run through the statistics and then kind of offer some advice and some key considerations for businesses and marketing teams to consider when they're doing PR and comms at this moment. So first of all, we wanted to look at whether or not businesses are getting the right level and amount of communications. So within the research, we found that a third of people think that there is too much or far too much communications. As we were talking about with your marketing webinar, Mike, you could see the graph, which kind of what is just increasing in terms of the level of comms which people are seeing, but the engagement has completely leveled out. And I think that's a real risk for businesses if they're just sending out stuff for the sake of it, or sending out comms that aren't relevant and necessary. Like people are getting overwhelmed, and in fact a quarter of the people that we spoke to said that they do find the level of communications overwhelming, and a fifth said it's worrying, and 1 in 10 are annoyed. Now at this time when people are worried and stressed and there's so much uncertainty, the last thing that businesses want to be doing is adding to this. It's not positive for people, and it can really put people off businesses and brands.
Yeah, and we're starting to see that a lot. I think there's a lot of brands, big brands at the moment, that haven't reacted well to this, the way that they've treated their employees, the way that they've communicated with customers. And we're starting to see a real backlash, aren't we, with public perception of those brands.
Absolutely, and I've got some examples to talk through as well, and it's that backlash that businesses have got to be worried about. Out of the people that we surveyed, more than 1 in 10 people said that they are boycotting businesses because of how and what they're communicating. And this is an absolute PR nightmare for businesses. And I mean, if you do a quick online search of people boycotting businesses because of coronavirus, there are so many articles in national newspapers, all summarising all the big bad brands that people no longer like because of how they've been responding to the current crisis. Interestingly as well, now I don't know about you, Mike, but I've received a lot of emails and communications from businesses I don't remember signing up to or having ever
Definitely.
dealt with.
Yeah.
And a little while ago, this little thing called GDPR came in, and but people just, well, some people, businesses don't seem to be necessarily adhering to it, because 28% of people said that they've received comms from businesses that they don't remember signing up to, or that they've not like had any dealings with for ages. So I think there's potentially some GDPR consequences of
Yeah.
people not adhering to the rules. So that's something to bear in mind.
I think a lot of businesses are just sort of kind of in panic mode. I think they need to communicate with everyone. They're getting their data teams to just bring everyone, all data together if they want to send out mass communication, and then they're forgetting about the legal implications of doing that, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, with email tools these days, like whether you're using something like MailChimp or ActiveCampaign, there's so many different ways of like tagging your database, so that, you know, you don't need to send something out to your everyone. If, you know, as a consumer, if you bought something from somebody 10 years ago, you don't care that their team are now working remotely from home.
No.
So it keeps going back to making sure that you're being relevant and necessary with what communications you're sending out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trust is a big thing as well. So as a PR agency, one of the big things that we try and do with all our clients is to help build that trust. But 1 in 10 people that we spoke to have seen communications recently from businesses that they don't trust, or they question the accuracy of the information that they're sharing. And I think with this as well, it's really important for businesses to know what their place is and what their stance is. So, you know, if you're a manufacturer of furniture, for example, you don't necessarily need to be going out with health and safety advice. Like, yes, okay, your customers might want to know about any supply issues, or whether they can still order from you, or how they return back products or something, but don't be sharing things if you're not the right person to share it. So, for example, a few people that we surveyed explicitly said that they only wanted to receive information relating to coronavirus from the government and the NHS, so trusted sources. And obviously the situation's changing all the time as well, so as a business, if you're sending out comms relating to coronavirus and the current crisis that we're going through, the chances are by the time you've written it and you've sent it out and it's got some traction, everything might have changed and the advice might have changed altogether. So just sort of stick to what you know and what you're good at, I think.
Definitely. I've seen so many businesses that are all jumping on the bandwagon of sharing their latest article about remote working, or their latest article on virtual conferencing tools and stuff like that. And it just gets a bit dull, doesn't it? I mean, there's
Absolutely.
so much content out there.
And I think as well, it might not show businesses in the best light as well. I mean, kind of remote working, different technologies and stuff have been around for ages. And I know, especially I think for kind of bigger, more corporate clients particularly, if, you know, remote working is quite new for them, but you run the risk of looking like you're a bit behind with the times anyway, because a lot of the world's been doing all this for ages.
Exactly. The joys of homework. I'm just going to shut my blinds because I keep getting blinded.
Oh yeah, at least it's sunny.
Yeah, there we go.
So just a really quick recap of that. So I think just looking at those first statistics, I think before creating and sending out any comms or PR, the main thing I would urge businesses to do is to think, is it relevant and is it necessary? Don't do comms for the sake of it. Again, going back to GDPR, I remember when everybody was trying to get their email databases into order, and literally everyone was sending out emails, weren't they, saying, please reply to this, and you didn't even need to do that, but because everybody else was doing it, I think everyone kind of jumped on the bandwagon to do it as well. So don't just do something for the sake of it. Don't do something because you see everybody else doing it. Think, is this relevant? What do you actually need to communicate? Who do you need to communicate it to? And then make sure you're choosing the right channels and the right way to make sure you're delivering those messages. We've got some more
sorry.
I was just going to say, we've got some more statistics coming up which will help people choose the right way of doing that.
Sure. I just to sort of add to that, I think those two words that you just said then, relevant and necessary, are the most important words. Whatever marketing that you're doing that's relatively intrusive, whether that be email marketing or you're direct messaging somebody on LinkedIn or something like that, you've got to make sure that those two words are the final thing that you look at before you send anything, because it's such a precious place, your inbox. It's make or break. If you send something at the wrong time or that's completely irrelevant, you're completely losing trust or any sort of positive thought around the business. So I think that's the thing that most people in good times as well as bad times need to think about before they press that send button. And that'll make sure that the content that they share is always, really high quality and it's relevant to the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, at the best of times, this is what businesses and marketing teams should be doing, but it's especially important right now.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to talk about how I think at this moment in time, actions speak much louder than words. And this kind of follows on from, don't just send out comms for the sake of it. You need to be actually doing the right thing as well. So we have all seen, no doubt, examples of businesses getting it wrong. So we've had Wetherspoon saying that they're not going to pay their staff, Sports Direct forcing teams to go in, even like Waterstones, which is quite a non-offensive business normally, they got loads of kind of criticism on social media because when I forget about time now. What is time? But a few days ago, they were still keeping their stores open, which it was going against government guidelines, and people really didn't like that. So they got a lot of criticism online. And Britannia Hotels as well sent out an awful letter letting their employees and staff know that they were no longer needed and they weren't getting paid and stuff. And it was just awful comms, and it really backfired. And that's the thing on social media. Everyone is a critic. So, excuse me. And so you've got to get it right, because you will be pulled up on it if you get it wrong.
I think there's two really interesting angles there. I think one, businesses may not be getting their internal comms right. Maybe they're too worried about the outward perception of what they're doing, and the way they're actually communicating with their internal teams, and having professional internal comms is lacking in a lot of big businesses where you'd expect them to have internal comms teams. And two, the actual speed of how all of this has paid out over the last couple of months, the last couple of weeks in particular, means that people's reactions to everything has just ramped up as well. I mean, a business makes the wrong decision one day in terms of, say, keeping their business open, like Waterstones. The next day, the world's completely changed, and they're absolutely pilloried in the state of 24 hours or whatever. So, it's about making those right decisions, but also communicating it really well, really quickly.
And that's interesting what you're saying about time as well. I think a lot of businesses have felt that panic, which is understandable, but they've just wanted to respond immediately to something, when actually you don't need to necessarily do something really, really quickly. Like, just take your time, see what happens. For example, in the construction sector, we work with a lot of businesses in construction, and we're likely to see guidance for the construction sector change. There's been quite a lot of pressure on the government to stop work on building sites. So again, rather than quickly knee-jerk reaction send stuff out, just wait and see what happens, and make sure you've got your HR and operations all in tip-top condition. And this is another thing as well about taking action. If you're going out with stuff, especially say if you're going out with messages about how you're taking, everyone's got the very formulaic comms which has been going out, haven't they? Like, oh, we hope you're okay, and we're taking this very seriously, and we're taking all the steps. But if you are not taking all the steps, and if you're not protecting your employees and your customers and suppliers and other people, like, even if you're going out with the best of intentions, this could really backfire. So I would really, really, really urge businesses to make sure that they're starting, first of all, with their operations, their HR, before they then do the PR and comms, because if they're
Definitely.
not aligned, it's just a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
However, it's not all doom and gloom, and there is a lot of benefit at the moment with good news.
That's really interesting. Actually, I'm going to go on to this because I think a lot of the people I'm speaking to actually have some good news, and they're really, really nervous about sharing it. They don't want to sound conceited. They don't want to sound like they're not suffering like everyone else is, and showing off. It's a difficult one, but I think everyone needs a bit, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are some businesses doing some great stuff, and I can understand businesses being a bit nervous about sending stuff out, but I think you just need to be sensitive with the situation. So, be mindful that people are losing their jobs, be mindful that businesses aren't going well, be mindful that people are worried and stressed, be mindful that some people are going to be hit personally with coronavirus, or their loved ones will be. But as long as you get the tone and the sentiment right, it can really work in your favour. So we found that over a third of people have seen businesses sharing genuinely useful or uplifting news. And I think that's the thing as well. If businesses are sharing something, I know we were talking about, yet another how to work from home article or something. But if you're sharing genuinely useful information, that can really help people, you and your audience. But also thinking about uplifting and positive news stories as well, because over a fifth of people have seen businesses share good news that has made them feel positive, and 28% are thankful for the comms that businesses are sharing. So whereas we don't want to overwhelm people, we don't want to worry people, we want to make sure that we're sending out relevant, necessary and accurate information and content. At the same time, it is an opportunity to help people. Like, people are looking for positivity, and we're consuming a lot of information as well. Like, there's a lot of information out there, but we're looking for the answers. Nobody really knows the answers and what's going to happen, but we're looking for that kind of reassurance. So it can be a really good opportunity for some businesses if you do it in the right way.
Yeah, brilliant.
And here's just some examples. If anybody else has seen any good examples of kind of businesses doing really positive stuff and getting some great kind of PR and comms out, I'd love to see it. So please share it. So one thing that we've had, so we've had quite a few manufacturers changing what they're producing at their factories to create either ventilators, or I think Zara, I think it was creating like some protective clothing for sort of hospital workers. This example here is Mercedes F1 team is creating more like ventilators or devices to help people breathe. We've got Morrison's, like a lot of the supermarkets have been doing quite positive stuff actually. So I mean, they've also had some criticism, but they've introduced things like safer shopping hours for more vulnerable people. Morrison's have put kind of perspex screens to help protect their staff. And this is what I was talking about, like, you need to take action. Don't just say stuff for the sake of it if you're not really doing anything. From a PR and marketing point of view as well, that's meaningless. I've had conversations with businesses who want to go out to the press about what they're doing, but then when you speak to them, they're not actually doing anything, which from a PR media story point of view, that's not a story. You need to be doing something. And something like Morrison's, they're actually taking action. And we're also seeing new organisations and collaborations being created as well. So like Meals for the NHS, they're teaming up with the hospitality sector, restaurants, which have obviously been impacted really negatively by coronavirus, to create meals for the NHS. And it's really nice, and it's giving, and it's just very positive, and it's great, showing a lot of goodwill.
Excellent.
Now, interestingly as well, we wanted to find out what people's preferred channels were for receiving comms from businesses, because we have all these different channels available to us. So what are the best ones? Now, email and the media completely were the most preferred. So email was preferred by over 35% of people, followed by the media. Now, interestingly, social media completely lagged behind. It was only, I think it was 6% of people said that they preferred to get comms from businesses relating to coronavirus on social media. Now, I thought this was really, really interesting. And I think there's a few different factors at play here. So I think with social media, there's so much noise anyway. There's a lot of opinion. There's a lot of inaccurate information being shared as fact. You know, we have problems with fake news. And I just wonder if with social media, people are worried about the credibility of the sources, and people are very, very opinionated at the moment and quite sensitive as well.
It's a chaotic and very anxious place, isn't it?
It is
the social world.
It is. And so while I wouldn't suggest that businesses are stopping their social media activity, I think maybe they need to make sure that they're not just adding to the noise around coronavirus and the current crisis. Like, how else can you help? Why are people going on social media? Yes, they're going on social media for information, but maybe they're also looking for entertainment and a bit of escapism as well.
Definitely.
So
I think there's a big opportunity for brands to just be focusing on content on social that's just really helpful, it's really engaging, it's really entertaining, it's going to take people away from this, but also that's going to help them prepare for what's after this as well.
Absolutely. But it was good to see, I think, email. So I think, although, Mike, we've both said that we've been kind of inundated with emails, and as our research shows as well, a lot of other people have, it is still quite a good way of getting to people. Like, I think we talked about it on your webinar. As a consumer, as a person, I get to choose when I access my email. So I will look up the email, and if I'm getting useful comms coming straight direct from businesses, that can be really helpful. And I think as well, it's good to see the media, so as in traditional media, newspapers, radio, TV, I think it's good to see them ranking quite highly as well. I think over the years, the media's kind of fallen out of favour a bit with the public. There's been kind of increasing mistrust around the media, but I think people do recognise, you know, real journalism and the value of that. And I think at times when trust and accuracy is really important, people will look at the likes of, you know, the BBC and other reputable media outlets to get their information and news. So if businesses can find ways of using the media in order to share their messages and their communications, that can really work in their favour, I think.
Yeah. On the email topic, and we talked a bit about this already and in our webinar yesterday, but one thing I've seen from the clients that I work with, I mean, a lot of them are B2B brands, but email is performing so much better at the moment than it has before, because we've been sharing really helpful, useful content. But so as well as having like really positive open rates and click-through rates, we've had some really positive comments from people who are replying to those emails or sharing it on social media saying, we got this great resource from X company. But it's just, I suppose there's still a massive opportunity for you for doing it and using it carefully and sensitively. But it's still a great channel to be speaking to people.
Absolutely, it is really good, and I think it's going to continue to grow. I think emails had a bit of sort of renaissance over the last few years anyway, but I think at times like this in particular, it's time to shine.
Yeah, definitely.
So a well-crafted email can work very, very well. So that's kind of in a nutshell some of the main findings. So there is a more in-depth report that I have put on the InHook Communications website. So if you'd search weareinhook.com / I think it's COVID-19 comms data, but it's on a blog post there. It goes into a lot more detail, but I just wanted to kind of conclude by including some considerations for UPR and comms.
Excellent. So it's really interesting to see those statistics sort of back up what everyone's kind of thinking.
Absolutely. Well, that's kind of why we did it as well, because, you know, I hate to use the word unprecedented. It is unprecedented times. And as PR and marketers, we want to make sure we're getting it right, and we want to make sure we're advising businesses in the right way. And you can get a sense from your own experiences and from what people are saying online. And obviously, we're both within networks of lots of other marketers and businesses, so you can get a sense of it. But it's quite interesting to carry out some research just to make sure, because it is such a fine line between getting it right and wrong.
Definitely. Yeah.
So as with any kind of marketing, make sure you've got a strategy. So don't just be sending out PR and comms for the sake of it. What do you want to achieve? Who do you need to communicate to, and how will you reach them? Okay. And this doesn't necessarily mean, this might mean you don't need to do any comms relating to coronavirus, or it might just mean that you just need to do some internal comms, or just to your most recent customers or to your suppliers. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go out to everyone about something. Take action. So as we've seen, actions do speak louder than words. There is absolutely no point trying to go out with a positive PR story if behind the scenes you have not got everything in order yourself. So get your operations and HR right. And with the Survive and Thrive group, there are some operations and HR webinars that people should have a look at as well, to make sure that they're getting all the information that they need for that. Bad news. So there will be bad news that businesses don't necessarily want to share, but have to be communicated. So you need to manage it. So going back to that Britannia Hotel example of them laying off their staff, it was done in a really inappropriate way. Mike, you shared another example of, was it a startup
who was sacking everyone by Zoom?
Yeah, sacking everyone by Zoom, which to be fair, they probably couldn't do it in person, but but it's, it backfired on them. So put people first and have empathy. And if you are having to share a break bad news, make sure you're telling the people who need to know about it first, the people who are impacted. There's nothing worse than people hearing that they've lost their job through hearing it on the news for the first time. And show how you can help them and support them. People understand that everyone's impacted in one way or another with what's going on, but you just need to show empathy here. Definitely. But likewise, if you've got a good news, share it. Like, as we've seen, people respond really favourably to good news and positive, uplifting stories at the moment. And I know from a media relations point of view, journalists are desperate for non-coronavirus related stuff already. I saw the other day a journalist tweet to say literally all the stories that I've been sent have been relating to coronavirus. We can't fill a whole paper with these stories. Like, send us some good news.
And I think that's what we're seeing. You turn the news on, you turn the TV on at any time of the day, you just can't get away from it, can you? And I think anything that just provides something different, something uplifting, that we can try and zone out of this current crisis and focus on something good, is definitely going to cut through the noise.
And there are loads of people in community groups, businesses, charities, individuals are doing such lovely things. So even amongst all the uncertainty and the worry and the stress, there are some lovely examples, which I think really shows like the goodwill and the humanity of people. So I think it can be a really nice time to bring people together.
Definitely. On a real small level, the few sort of posts that I've shared that have been positive stories about either something that I'm doing or that other people, some wins that other people have been the ones that have had more interaction than anything. So I posted the other day about a client of ours who managed to take on a new project in Japan in a few months' time. So I shared something around, this positive news coming from another part of the world, and we've got so much interaction from that. I think people are just desperate for it, aren't they?
Absolutely. And I think as well, the more we can share positive business news, so whether that's new business wins or, even business growth, I think that's sending out the right messages as well to help the economy. I think a lot of businesses are suddenly thinking, we can't spend anything, we can't do anything. But really, we just all need to try and carry on as business as normal as much as possible. So if we can share good news coming from businesses about things that they're doing and some successes, hopefully it will encourage people to see that there are still opportunities out there and you are still able to run your business and grow. Yeah. And then finally as well, I think this is finally, make sure you're thinking long term. So always your PR and communication strategy needs to be in line with your business strategy. Now, I know for a lot of our clients and a lot of other businesses I know, they will be going back to the drawing board to look at what their business strategy is. So what are they offering? They might be adapting their products or services. They might be changing the way that they do business. They might be deciding to target different audiences or markets, whatever it is that the business is doing in order to adapt to what has been a weird time of a lot of change, to make sure that they're coming out of this period, you know, stable and strong. Like, whatever that business strategy looks like, you need to be involving your PR and communications teams to making sure that what you are doing from PR and comms is in line with that. There is no way that you can measure the impact of PR and comms unless it is tied into the business plan and strategy. So it's really important to make sure that you're doing that. And people will be changing, and it will probably change, you know, monthly, or if not more regularly over the coming months, and, you know, even this year. So just be agile, be flexible, but make sure you're involving your PR and comms teams, because they can help you
Definitely
achieve your goals.
Exactly. I know a lot of people would say, you know, you would say that because you're in that industry, and I get exactly the same thing. But I've seen so many businesses that are just cutting teams, cutting agency spend overnight. And I know they've got to, because it's a time when, you know, they're really having to cut the spend and protect the business. But if you cut those creative arms of your business, and you don't have any of those skill sets left within the business, it's going to be so much tougher to come back from this if you haven't got the people there that are going to help you turn new ideas, new products, new ways of working into a marketable business. It's going to be so much more difficult in the long run if you lose those skills right now.
And also you still want people to know about you, and okay, it's not the time necessarily to be going out with the cold hard sell, but as we were talking about with your webinar, you know, helping people, informing people, educating people, supporting others, that's the time to be doing it, and to sharing your expertise and your knowledge. And PR and comms is a brilliant way to do that, as is wider marketing. You don't want to come out of this the other side with people not knowing who you are or having forgotten about you.
Or think you've gone bust as well. If you stop everything altogether, I think that's a risk a lot of businesses are taking. If they're pausing all activity, you're finding their socials have dropped off completely in the space of a week. That goes on for a month or two. A lot of people just think you've gone.
Absolutely.
And you've lost that audience.
So I hope, in a nutshell, kind of speeded through the data. But as I said, if you go to the Unhooked Communications website, I have broken down the data into a bit more detail, including what kind of age groups are more likely to boycott businesses than others, which is quite interesting, and a few more tips as well. But I think just in general, I would just encourage people to make sure that they're being relevant and necessary with their comms, but not being too scared to share good news.
Excellent.
Because I think there are some really good opportunities.
One final question, I suppose. Everyone's we talked about everyone sort of cutting back to some extent at the moment, but we still want to be able to talk about what we're doing, and still be present. Have you got any recommendations to people on how they can continue with some PR and comm stuff, but maybe a bit more of a budget? What sort of advice can you give them on
Absolutely.
techniques?
So if you want to do your own PR and comms, if you go to the PR Unlocked website, a bit of a plug for my own, but there I've got loads of resources. It's all designed to help other people do PR and comms without employing a PR agency. There is a free course on there. It's all about how to use Twitter in particular. So a lot of people, if they know a little bit about PR and media relations, might know about the hashtag journo request. But I see people using that wrong all the time, and it really annoys me. So not only do I go into detail about how to use journo requests to improve your chances of getting featured in like national newspapers, radio, TV, it also goes into detail about a few other tactics that you can try using Twitter. And the best thing as well about Twitter is it's completely free. You don't have to sign up to any expensive journalist databases or subscriptions or any of that. It's completely free. All it needs is your time and a bit of thought into how you approach it, and you can get some amazing opportunities, because loads of journalists right now are wanting to hear from businesses directly. What are they doing? How are they surviving? What is going on? What good news and positive actions are they taking?
Yeah.
So that would be a great place to start if people want to give it a go themselves, so that they can carry on.
PRunlocked.com.
Yeah, PRunlocked.com, and there's various articles, but there's also a freebie section as well where you'll find the free course.
Awesome. Brilliant. Oh, thanks so much for that, Claire. It was really, really helpful.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
I'll catch up with you soon. Cheers.
Speak soon. Bye.
Bye.